And so during your career in the fire department, did you experience symptoms of burnout?
I did, and it's interesting. I came on just long enough ago that I guess I would have been considered coming on with the old school group. I'm part of the baby boom generation,
Hmm.
which hopefully doesn't horribly date me. But I came into the industry before mental health was really considered to be a consideration. You just kind of kept your head down, you ground away, did your job, and the chips kind of fell where they fell. And nobody really tracked what was going on with responder mental health at the time.
Hmm.
And it didn't really develop into something of concern or consideration in this industry until much later, probably until the latter 90s, early 2000s, that people really started to pay attention to what was going on with first responders and first responder mental health, and the fact that as a first responder, you could actually suffer from post-traumatic stress, which is very prevalent today.
Can we elaborate a little bit more in terms of, what you mean by the mental health effects of the day-to-day work that first responders do?
Well, as a first responder, one of the things that you're exposed to on a regular basis is the grief of other people. We respond to incidents, whether it's the loss of property, it's the loss of life, or events in people's lives that are profoundly disruptive and have a large impact on those people, and they offload a tremendous amount of grief. And as first responders, we have a tendency to absorb that grief from other people, but we don't have necessarily a mechanism to offload that grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a while, you start to carry this grief around with you, and it starts to affect you as a person. And then you start to see disruptions in the way you do your job, impacts on your lifestyle. Then you start to see physical health issues that start to manifest from this stress related to this type of issue. And ultimately, it can lead to the scenario where someone just can't deal with the shouldered grief anymore, and then the suicide becomes an option. And it's become more and more prevalent in the industry, both in fire and law enforcement and in our EMS workers.
How prevalent is suicide amongst first responders?
Well, I'll give you some examples. In 2019, the fire service experienced 62 line of duty deaths. And, outside of the 62 line of duty deaths, for, deaths from building collapse or heart attacks or mechanical issues that caused the fire casualty, we saw 119 suicides of firefighters in 2019. Conversely, on the law enforcement side, we saw 155 line of duty deaths in law enforcement, whether it be police officers hit by vehicles on highways during traffic stops or shootings or other events. We saw 239 law enforcement suicides. In 2019, we saw 155 line of duty deaths with law enforcement folks and 239 suicides among law enforcement.
Wow.
And what's interesting is
times the amount.
Yeah, significant, very significant.
For us, by us, and just for us, this is Hope for Men.